On 5 News, rescued from the rubble, Omran Dagnish is just 5 years old, an innocent victim of the horror of war in Syria. The United Nations is demanding a ceasefire to get aid to the 2 million people trapped in Aleppo. Also, Olympic joy, Alistair Brownlee wins gold in the triathlon. His brother Johnny gets silver. Not so sweet. Anger as the government slims down its plans to tackle Britain's child obesity crisis. And making the grade, why more A-level students are now heading to university. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. He is a symbol of Syria's suffering. A little boy sitting alone, covered in dust and blood, moments after being pulled from the rubble of his home in Aleppo. The image of 5-year-old Omran Dagnish has touched people around the world, an emblem of despair, sparking renewed calls for a ceasefire. Just a warning, you may find Dominic Reynolds' report upsetting.
It's the middle of the night and a bomb has just exploded. Little Omran was asleep when his home was hit. No tears as he's put down in the ambulance. He's silent. He's dazed. What can he make of the blood that he wipes from his head? Later, another boy covered in dust comes out of the rubble. There's a little girl in the ambulance too. The pictures were filmed in Aleppo and distributed by those fighting the government. They want you to see what happens when regime bombs fall. But the doctors who'll treat these children are caught in the middle of a siege. Their supplies are running out.
They're working with limited medicine, with limited medical supplies. They're facing electricity shortages, which means that sometimes they have to treat patients in the dark without access to electricity. This also means that the medical equipment is not always functioning or available. There's also shortages of fuel, which affect the ability of ambulances to respond to emergencies.
For each incident like this that we see, there are so many we don't. The number of children who've been killed in Syria's war is at least 14,000, 250,000 people in all.
And he's asked me, what do you think we should do about her?
In Britain, surgeon David Knott receives messages every day from doctors in the hospital that treated Omran. He's volunteered there in the past. He says it's a desperate place to try and save lives.
You have to really turn yourself off and just concentrate on trying to treat the patient. But the problem is sometimes that you cannot treat the patients, and they're children that are so badly damaged and so pitiful that it's actually very emotional and traumatic for everybody that's dealing with the casualties that come in. And a lot of people are crying, a lot of people are very upset by what's happening.
Aleppo was the biggest city in Syria, so it's a place the government is desperate to win. Omran is just one of the little lives caught in the middle. The fact that he made it into an ambulance at all makes him luckier than so many others.
Dominic, it is heartbreaking to see those pictures. What is being done for the children of Syria?
Well, there is a UN-led group that in theory meets every week to discuss these humanitarian issues. This week, though, the meeting stopped after 8 minutes. It was shut down by the person in charge, Staffan de Mistura. Why was it shut down? Well, he said he wants to send a message about his very deep concern. You see, there are some parts of Syria, as I alluded to there, which haven't received any aid at all for the whole month of August. Now, that's a very long time. It causes some very big problems. He wants big countries like America, Russia and others to get together and make a ceasefire happen for 48 hours.
Dominic, thank you. To Rio now, and the latest on Team GB's Olympic hopes. And the Brownlee brothers, Alistair and Jonathan, are back on the winning podium in the triathlon for the second time running. 4 years ago, they took gold and bronze in London. In the past few minutes, they've taken gold and silver. Earlier, there was a silver in the men's kayaking for Liam Heath and John Schofield, and a bronze for Chris Langridge and Marcus Ellis in the badminton. Here's Peter Lane.
Double delight and a dramatic finish in the men's 200-metre kayak double. Team GB's Liam Heath and John Schofield just edging silver. And from water to terra firma, a badminton bronze for Marcus Ellis and Chris Langridge with high emotion. Britain's first ever Olympic medal in the men's doubles. And then a double act on water and dry land as the Brownlee brothers, Alistair and Johnny, chased another triathlon success story. Between them and the podium, a 1,500-metre swim, 40-kilometre bike ride and 10-kilometre run. Back home in Yorkshire at the Brownlee Brothers Running Club, the Bingley Harriers, these things are always anxious viewing but inspirational stuff.
You're always a bit on the edge of your seat thinking, is this really going to, are they going to make it this time? And there's some close competition out there.
They run here and it gives you an inspiration to do what they do too. Yeah. So we can follow in their footsteps as we're going up the club. Yeah, do the same as them.
All the way to an Olympic medal?
Hopefully.
The London Olympics in 2012 saw Alistair take gold and younger brother Johnny take bronze. The Commonwealth Games in 2014 saw gold for Alistair and silver for Johnny. For those who knew them as young lads when this all began at school, they are a team.
It's extremely unusual, I think, but it really works with them. I mean, they support each other when they're injured. They train with each other all the time, and yet in competition they are fiercely competitive. It's a team event in many ways. It's just that they like to beat each other if they can.
And today they edged ahead on the bikes, that training in the Yorkshire Hills paying off in the Rio climbs. Then on foot, Alistair stretched clear of Johnny, becoming the first male triathlete ever to retain the Olympic title. Brownlee gold, Brownlee silver, and across the line, the brothers held hands. At home, that's Yorkshire pride ×2. Peter Lane, 5 News.
And there are more guaranteed medals to come tonight. Hannah Mills and Saskia Clark are assured of a gold medal in the sailing as long as they finish. They were due to have their final race yesterday, but the water was too calm and the weather too hot. Britain's women have reached the Olympic hockey final for the first time ever. It means there will definitely be a medal for the team, but we won't know whether it's gold or silver until tomorrow when they face the Netherlands. The Dutch will be hoping they'll win. If they do, it'll be the third time in a row they've struck Olympic gold in a hockey final. So let's take a look at the medal table now. Team GB still holding strong in second place with more medals to come. While there's success in the sporting arena, there's continuing concern about security outside it. After a member of Team GB was robbed in Rio, the athlete who's not been named was reportedly held at gunpoint. They were heading back to the Olympic Village after a night out. A spokesman for the team confirmed an incident of theft. Athletes have been reminded not to wear their kit outside the Olympic Village and to avoid carrying valuables. Meanwhile, Brazilian authorities have cast doubt over claims that 4 American swimmers were held at gunpoint in Rio on Sunday. 2 of the 4 Olympians were stopped from leaving the country by police. They're said to be helping with the investigation. The TV presenter Charlie Webster is in a coma and on life support after contracting a rare strain of malaria en route to covering the Olympics. The 33-year-old had tweeted pictures of herself from her hospital bed, but her condition has got worse. She had cycled 3,000 miles from London's Olympic Stadium to Rio to raise money for charity. It's meant to reduce the spiralling numbers of children who are obese, but the government's long-awaited strategy has been criticised by charities, campaigners and even one of Britain's biggest supermarkets. The plans involve a sugar reduction scheme with a target of 20% and an aim to get kids doing more exercise, but it's voluntary, leading to accusations that the strategy has been watered down. Our political editor Andy Bell reports.
The race is on to head off obesity and make our children healthier. At this summer class in Suffolk, the kids are exercising and learning about better food. But one of their parents says everyday pressures make healthy eating harder.
When you've got other children that don't need to worry about their weight, it's very hard for your child to actually turn around and say, well, I'll opt for fruit instead, when all their friends are having the chocolate cake and the chocolate custard to go with it.
The government says food companies should reduce sugar content by 20% by 2020, but it's voluntary. There is also a tax on soft drinks, the equivalent of 8p on a can of fizzy cola. But there is no clampdown on buy one, get one free type promotions on unhealthy food, and there's no further restriction on TV advertising for similar products. So why has the government backed off those ideas?
This is a big ask of manufacturers and retailers to take 20% out of sugar in the common categories that children eat over the next 4 years.
But it's still only voluntary, that's my point.
But the point is that we're going to legislate for the soft drinks industry levy, and secondly, we know we can do this because we've done it before on salt.
But campaigners are unimpressed. Chef Jamie Oliver says he's in shock. And almost across the board, those worrying about obesity think this strategy is too timid.
If it's going to be done on a voluntary basis, then you need a strong body, independent of government, to really enforce it. Because otherwise, on a voluntary basis, companies can choose to not do anything about their products, not reduce sugar, fat or salt.
Go. A third of children aged between 2 and 15 are obese, leaving them more likely to develop diabetes and other illnesses. But for children like Morgan, this action plan could also be about just feeling better.
My goal is to lose weight a bit because I think I'm a bit overweight a bit, and I would kind of like to get more like energetic and exercising like more.
Fundamentally, this obesity strategy is supposed to help children get healthier. But today there's real concern that when the moment came, the government pulled its punches.
And Andy, why do you think the government did that?
Well, first of all, it's worth recalling exactly who is fed up with what the government's come out with today. It's quite a roll call. 2 former government health ministers, the chair of the Health Select Committee, who's a Conservative MP, and a doctor, the Faculty of Public Health, the Royal College of Paediatricians and Child Health, even the supermarket Sainsbury's. Just some of those who feel that this strategy hasn't gone far enough, and they all take the same view, which is the government had the chance to really impose controls and its wishes on both manufacturers and retailers. Now, there has been lobbying within the industry, and it does look as if the government has decided that it should listen to the arguments from the industries. For instance, that imposing more regulations would push up costs, which might mean more jobs being lost in both retailing and in food manufacture, and extra costs which would find their way through to the prices that consumers pay in the end. It does seem as if the government has responded to that, but of course, if the price we pay in the end is a much less healthy nation, well, that will cost us money in the future as well.
Andy, thank you. Still to come on the programme. Why Pauline Kafeki, the nurse who contracted Ebola, is facing disciplinary action, and...
Can we just ask a question? This woman, you've been harassing and abusing her online. Have you got anything to say to her at all? Lee, can you come and talk to us quickly?
Tracking down the internet trolls, a Channel 5 investigation. All that and more after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Pauline Kafeki, the NHS nurse who contracted the deadly Ebola virus 2 years ago, is facing disciplinary action. She's been accused of attempting to hide her temperature during checks when she came back to the UK from Sierra Leone. Let's talk to Layla Hayes, who joins me now. What do we know about this, Layla?
Well, Pauline Kafeki, of course, was the nurse who risked her life to work with the sick in Sierra Leone and ended up contracting the deadly Ebola virus. She spent a month in isolation at the Royal Free Hospital in London after the virus was detected when she returned to the UK. She later recovered, but was readmitted to hospital on 2 separate occasions after developing complications. She now's facing disciplinary action after she's alleged to have given dishonest answers to medical staff at Heathrow Airport when she returned to the UK. Now, the Nursing and Midwifery Council have been investigating her conduct. They allege that she allowed an incorrect temperature to be recorded and intended to conceal from Public England staff that she had a temperature higher than 38 degrees.
Any reaction from Pauline Kafeki so far?
There's been no word from Pauline Kafeki today. Last month, in a TV interview, she spoke about the ordeal of having Ebola and how she feared she may die. Well, she's now facing an ordeal of a different kind. Next month, there will be a disciplinary panel in Edinburgh. And if the allegations are proved to be true, she could be struck off.
Layla, thank you. Receiving abuse online can be frightening, upsetting and traumatic. Often the people behind the attacks can hide behind fake profiles and online anonymity. They're known as trolls, and a new Channel 5 programme is attempting to confront the people behind those keyboards. Our reporter Julian Drucker was part of the team who tracked down the trolls.
Hiding beneath a hoodie, a serving police officer who is also an internet troll. For the first time, we're about to bring him face to face with his victim.
This woman you've been harassing and abusing her online. Have you got anything to say to her at all? Lee, can you come and talk to us quickly?
He refused to speak to her.
Nothing to say, no comment.
After Nicola Brooks posted a tame comment online in 2012, it led to him even encouraging violence against her.
I knew he'd do that. I knew he'd just walk off and run.
He wasn't charged, but was disciplined by his police force. The punishment was more severe for the person who trolled the mother of murdered James Bulger. The 20-year-old woman who tormented Denise Fergus is now serving a 3-year jail term.
My husband Stuart, he told me not to even look at this girl's account because although she was writing nasty things about James, she also has a lot of pictures of dead babies on her account. So I didn't want to see that anyways. It's actually took 2 years. It's been a long process, but I mean, we got there in the end, and yet she has just been given 3 years, and it just proves that, you know, if you are thinking about trolling someone, then think twice, because there could be a jail sentence out there for you.
In England and Wales, around 150 people are now jailed every year for online harassment. To deal with the growing problem, the Metropolitan Police is to set up a special troll hunting unit. But the union, which represents most police officers, says it's crucial that other forces get those extra resources too.
The vast majority of the workforce will not have had that training, and many of them, and maybe it's a generational thing, but many of them won't be computer literate. They'll send emails, they'll receive emails, but investigating internet crime like this is quite an involved procedure.
Tackling the trolls and holding those anonymous offenders to account, one of the burgeoning issues that define our social media age. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
For students in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, the anxious wait is over. They've got their A-level results and a record number of them are going to university. That's despite a drop in the number of pupils scoring A's and A stars. Warren Nettleford has been with the teenagers picking up their results in Cheltenham.
Thousands of students had this feeling earlier.
Oh my God, okay, I'm fine. I think I'm good.
Potential futures enclosed in personal white envelopes. These were just some of the emotions on show today here in Cheltenham.
And supporting your daughter, was that really hard? Were you quite stressed?
I was mega stressed, yeah. Yeah. I think I was more nervous than what she was.
It went very well, actually, much better than expected. Bit of a tough year, but yeah, I got a B overall, so I'm very happy.
Hopefully medical school. I'd like to be a plastic surgeon.
Why is that?
I quite like to do something gory, and it's like doing facial reconstruction seems like the best way to apply.
The results revealed today were very similar to those last year. The overall pass rate stayed the same at 98.1%, and those getting A star and A grades dropped 0.1% on last year to 25.8%. But according to UCAS, there's been a 3% increase in university places. Now a record number of more than 420,000 were offered. In England, there's no longer a cap on university places, and there are fewer 18-year-olds this year too. That means students who didn't get the results they needed still have hope. University clearing is where advisors link hopeful students with course vacancies. More than 7,000 calls have already been answered, placing students with empty university courses.
There's definitely places available. So universities are geared up to hear from people who want to go to them through clearing. They'll have teams of people ready to answer phone calls, and actually quite a lot of current students who can give a really good idea about what the university experience is like.
For those students who don't have a university place, clearing lasts for another month. For these students, like many others, today is a day of celebration. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Before we go, Matt's joined us to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight.
I'm glad they didn't get to my grades, Sean. Anyway, David Knott, the British surgeon who you saw in Dominic's report about the Syrian boy Omran Dagnish, will be joining me here in the studio. I'll be asking for his experiences of operating in hospitals in Syria and about how he's trained other doctors there to carry on his good work. We'll also be hearing from the former X Factor finalist Chris Maloney. He confronted the troll who made death threats against him. Hear about that in an hour.
Interesting. Thank you, Matt. That is it for now. Sean Welby has the weather next. Matt's back at 6:30. Thanks for watching tonight. Goodbye.